Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Iannacchione, and I'm going to start off today's seminar. The first thing that we'd like to do is to recognize or welcome from the organizing committee, and it's a rather big group. The primary engine behind this has been the IRISE consortium, and IRISE stands for the Impactful, Resilient Infrastructure, Science, and Engineering Collaboration at the University of Pittsburgh. And what makes this a unique collaboration are the stakeholders: Allegheny County, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, Michael Baker, Golden Triangle, and the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. At the University of Pittsburgh, the people have really been doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Gary Yoler, Julie Vandenbush, Monica Bell, Dan Bain, Atan Shalif, Steve Sachs, Kenny Doty, Paul Kovacs. They've all been really deeply involved in helping us pull this off. From the geotechnical community, these are just the presenters. Actually, there's a lot more companies and organizations that have helped us out here. The American Geotechnical and Environmental Services, Gateway Engineering, Gannett Fleming, GAI Consultants, Wright Geosystems, Hamill Geotechnical, Fisher Associates, and Ajoya Gray Consulting. So these are some of the folks that will be presenting. From the universities and government, we've got participation from Carnegie Mellon University, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, and the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Okay, so what's the problem? Why are we doing this? Well, according to the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission, and a lot of this comes from PennDOT, there are approximately 350 active slides, or an inventory of landslides in our region, say the 7-county region around Pittsburgh. And these are just the slides that PennDOT is tracking. There are many more that are the responsibility of the local boroughs and townships. To fix these 350 slides, they estimate it would take about $235 million. Well, there's only around $31 million being allocated to fix these problems. So you could see that's only about 12% of what we need. So there's great impact that they have on our lives. They disrupt and damage homes and businesses and transportation systems, as you will see throughout these 3 seminars that we're putting on. So, and this is the picture of a landslide along the south side slope, so it's close to home. Max Wynn is going to talk about this on September 11th. He's a graduate student at Pitt, and he's using photogrammetry techniques to try to characterize this landslide. But it destroyed a home and damaged a road that really made it difficult for people to get to their houses. So this is kind of typical of the kinds of problems that we're dealing with. So the objectives to our landslide seminar series, it's all about networking. And, we want to enhance, we're going to try to enhance the professional interactions so that, we know what are the latest trends and what everybody else is doing and what everybody else has learned as it relates to this subject, especially identification and remediation. Those are big topics. And we want to expose the students in our region to the deep history that we have in the geotechnical community, and especially as it relates to landslides, so that you'll have an idea of what this community is all about, and you can make some decisions as to whether or not you think that's an area that you'd like to be involved with in the future. So please ask questions. I would say the primary vehicle for the question should be the chat feature in Zoom, although, if you want to ask a verbal question, that's fine too. But it's all about, fulfilling the needs you have of finding out more about this particular problem. So, who's in attendance today? Well, let's see how many. We have 243 online. We had 240 sign up, so we've had some people that have signed up since yesterday. Largely, the students are from the University of Pittsburgh, from civil and environmental engineering, and from the Department of Geology and Environmental Sciences. But we also have a large contingent from our colleagues at Carnegie Mellon University, and I think that we've got a couple of students from California University of Pennsylvania as well. And we're really excited to have other students involved in this event. Now, the professionals will join us for the second and third seminar, which of course you're all invited to attend, and you're automatically registered to attend those seminars. And we have, as of yesterday, over 60 organizations that have signed up. So it's going to be an equally, I think, impressive group. Those are two dates to keep in mind, September 4th and September 11th. And again, that's when we'll be joined by the professionals in our local region. So we're going to try a polling question here. And we're asking, what do you think a geotechnical engineer might do? So there's a couple of different choices here. Do you think that they work with engineering behavior of earth materials, or are they trying to predict damage caused by natural hazards and use this knowledge to develop prevention controls and recovery measures? Are they applying soil, rock, and groundwater mechanics to the design and to design and predict the performance of earth structures, such as dams? Do they design foundations for bridges, buildings, and other man-made structures in terms of the underlying soil and rock? Or is it all of the above? So if you might take a second just to answer that question. And we're getting some totals now. Whoa, everybody says all of the above. Wow, you're good. So let's ask the question about the title of engineering geologist. A lot of the students on this call are geologists as well. So what do? They work with civil engineers, structural engineers, architects, developers, planners, to ensure that the geologic factors affecting the location, design, construction, and operation and maintenance of engineering works are accounted for. That's maybe one thing they do. They interpret landforms and earth processes to identify potential geologic and related man-made hazards that might impact civil structures and human development. That sounds like a good definition. They characterize flow of groundwater using monitoring strategies and model these systems using empirical, analytical, and numerical methods, or it's all of the above. And I think we're probably in unison there too. Let's see what the totals are. 100%. Okay. You guys are really good. So let's give you some background. Last year, in August of 2019, the IRISE consortium, the stakeholders wanted to emphasize the problem of landslides. It was having a debilitating impact on our region. So there was a one-day seminar that was held at the University Club in August, and you could go to this website at the bottom. By the way, all these presentations will be available on a link. We'll try to put that link in the chat mode here pretty soon. And, if you click on that link, you would go to this report. It's like a 40-page report on what happened. I think it really would give you a good feel for what went on that day. But what I wanted to say is that one of the initial comments that people made, a lot of discussion. It was all about trying to get the professionals working in this area to tell us what the issues were. And they were asking us to increase our diligence in trying to make undergraduates aware of the landslide problem, because the comments they made is there's not enough students that are entering into this area, and those that do enter weren't exposed to these problems the way that they had hoped they might be. So that was the background from 2019, and some of the goals we had for this workshop. There were 100 people that attended it, and I thought it went very well. We were responding to the IRISE stakeholders' concerns. We were providing a venue for landslide practitioners to learn more about current future landslide detection and remediation efforts. We were highlighting new research activities and capabilities. We were investigating methods to manage landslide risks. That's a real important topic. And we were exploring potential future funding efforts. So those were some of our goals with that landslide workshop. So now fast forward to 2020, we wanted to expand on this effort. Everybody thought that it was a good start, but more work needed to be done. So we began to meet in late January and early February as a group to talk about what's the next step. And so we put together this really grand plan. I mean, it would have been great. We were going to have 18 presenters and lots of professionals and students gathering together, and we were going to have food, and there would be lots of opportunity for networking and all the cool things that could be derived from that kind of seminar. And then, of course, like everything else, the pandemic came along and really shelved those plans. So this is our attempt to try to invigorate some sort of networking capability in the climate that we have today. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. The thing that we've all been struck with, anybody that teaches or interacts with students today, is we're just struck by your strong desire to work on projects that would improve the future welfare of the communities that you live in, and essentially trying to use sustainable practices to do that. And I just want to say that, I can't think of another problem area that kind of fits this desire that you have more so than the landslide problem area. Okay, so here's the third question. Now, let's say that's your house and you've had a landslide develop and it's affecting your property. The question is, will it be covered by homeowners insurance? If you could take a second to answer this question, what do you think? Okay, we've got some that say yes, more than half say no, and some say maybe. I think the simple answer, as we're still compiling responses, is no. If this happens on your property, you're on your own for the most part. Obviously, there's different situations where that might not be the case, but that's what makes this problem so difficult. If it happens to you, don't look for your homeowner's insurance to cover you. Okay, it's important that we talk about a historical perspective. And there's 3 local geotechnical groups, professional groups, that are really significant in this region. And, we would implore all of you to consider joining one, if not all of them, if you're interested in this particular area. So let's start with the Geo Institute. So that's part of the American Society of Civil Engineers. We have strong student chapter groups at Pitt and CMU in this area. The Pittsburgh section has a Geo Institute. It was formed in 1996, but the former group was the geotechnical group in ASCE. It had its origins back in the 1950s. I'm not sure of the exact date, but there's been 70 years of professional involvement in the Pittsburgh section with geotechnical engineering. The Pittsburgh Geologic Society, it was founded right at the end of World War II. So it's the oldest of the three local societies, professional societies. They currently have over 200 members. They've had over 175 members throughout their entire history. If you're not familiar with them, it's just a great group. They meet about 6 to 8 times a year. They have field trips. They've done conferences. Just an outstanding group, local group. The third is the local section of the Association of Environmental and Engineering Geologists. They were formed in 1975, and they were first known as the Allegheny, Ohio section. That was changed more recently to the Greater Pittsburgh chapter. They've had 2 national AEG meetings in Pittsburgh, one in 1990 and another in 2015. And there are 6 honorary members, and I'm going to talk more about them in a minute. One of them is going to be a speaker here today, Dr. Hamill. And these honorary members are just giants in their field. So give me a minute, we'll loop back to that particular topic. In 2000, continuing on this theme of recognizing the historical significance of this profession in our region, in 2004, there was an all-day seminar. It was organized by Kathy Bazan-Aries. She's at the Joy of Gray, and others in the Geo Institute, and they honored 4 really important people in this particular area. A.C. Iannacchione, he was a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. Jim Hamill, again, he's going to speak later today, and on September 4th, Dick Gray, who is going to give some summary comments at the end of September 11th's seminar, and Ilio D'Apollonia were asked to speak. They gave some dynamite talks. I happened to be a facilitator for that meeting, and Jim sent me this introductory remarks, and I was reading through it, and it still applies today. So all these issues that were important 20 years ago are still important today. So here's a link that if you wanted to learn more about some of these folks, the Joy of Gray put together a series of like 10-minute videos of these 5 giants in geotechnical engineering. And you could go to this link and find those 5 videos and learn more about some of the really interesting things that have been done by the geotechnical professionals in our area. So, okay, this what is the Landslide Capacity Building Virtual Seminar Series plan? We've seen the plan, I hope. It's been sent to you. But just to go over it in a little bit of detail. So today it's for students. It's all about the students. And the idea is that we're going to prepare you better with a couple of introductory talks here in the next hour that will give you a better perspective when you listen to the professionals talk about these subjects. Because if you just went in cold and didn't have any background, I don't think it would be as interesting. So hopefully we'll set the stage today, and then when you hear the 18 talks over the next 2 seminar dates, you'll have a better perspective to understand what the issues are. I will be introducing Dr. Dan Bain in a minute. He's going to talk about geology and landslides. Then we'll move on to Dr. Hamill. He's going to give you a really interesting talk about a particularly nasty landslide that occurred in the past and its impact. And then we're going to have some remarks from the Swanson School of Engineering Dean, Dr. James Martin. So that's the plan for today. For September 4th, so this will be our first seminar with a lot of professional involvement. The focus is on landslide recognition and monitoring efforts. So that's the way we're going to really focus on those topics. We've got 3 sessions. You're automatically going to be sent to one of these 3. And so you won't see the other 2. You know, we didn't want to have 18 talks that we'd force you to listen to. So we're trying to narrow it down into a smaller perspective for you to look at. If you like the session you're in and you like the topics and you want to learn more, we're going to have the videos for the other sessions available to you at a later time. So the thought is that you will have the ability to hear all these talks if you so choose at a time sometime in the future. So you can see the lineup. Like I said, you'll go to one of these 3 sessions, and we've previewed a lot of these talks already, and there's some great talks there. On September 11th, this is the second seminar with the professionals, and the emphasis here is on new technology to recognize and to monitor landslides. So these talks are all about trying to apply some of the new LiDAR techniques or photogrammetry techniques or INSAR, any of the new technology that's out there that is really going to change the way that we recognize, characterize, and monitor landslides today and in the future. It's already changing things, but it's just going to accelerate. We think you're going to find this to be particularly relevant for your studies. So I believe this is the last slide. Again, all the information about the seminar will be eventually posted on the IRISE website. We'll have abstracts there, we'll have bios and pictures, and that's great for networking. Hopefully you'll find some people that you're really interested in talking with in the future, and that'll be a way for you to find out where they're at and how you can get in contact with them. There'll be PowerPoint presentations on that particular link, agendas and plans, and we'll also, at some point in the near future, have the videos of the presentations. And the last comment I would make is that as students, you're automatically signed up for September 4th and September 11th. I hope you will join us for these technical presentations. I think you'll find them really well done.